Hey besties, long time no see, I've missed you. It's a Fantasy Fiction Fridays, I'm back. We are going to be reading from the Ladies of the Lily Dystopian Tales of the Fae that I just dropped. It is available on KU, as well as if you want a physical copy, they are on the Amazon. Um, the Ladies of the Lily kind of goes over the lives that the fairies that were introduced in the nature of forces. So the stories take place, it's an anthology of stories, right? The stories take place in the same time, in the same universe as the nature of forces, but you don't have to read them together. It's not a series. There are a lot of Easter eggs, so you can read them in any sequence that you want, or you can read them as standalones if you want. Um, we do go into a lot of what happens, particularly with the elements, because the nature of forces is an apocalyptic tale, which obviously affects the ecosystem in which the Fae are living in. But the fairies don't really know what the hell's going on. So it's kind of written with that level of confusion. So it's okay if you don't know what's going on too. But if you do want to know and you like that kind of thing, then I would read the nature of forces first. Or just go watch season 1 right here. This will be the long form content version on YouTube. It will be broken up into smaller parts that I will post, I believe, to Skylight and Facebook. Will probably be the ones if you want them in little broken up tales. But anyway, okay, that's enough. That's enough of my blah blah blah. I'm sure you've already scrolled by now, but that's okay. Let's get into it. Just so you know, I am reading from my manuscript. This was written particularly for KU, and I don't have my physical copy yet, as it just dropped a couple weeks ago, and I haven't received my author proof copies yet. So yeah, I'm just gonna read. Shh. Tell me, Genevieve, shut up. There's gonna be background noise because my kids, as grown as they are, they'd be loud. The Ladies of the Lily, Dystopian Tales of the Fae by Genevieve Gravel. The Fae of the Willowed Glen, Astor's Tale. Astor! I heard my brother cry. Ugh, what does he want now? It was not that I disliked Billy J. He was a great kid as far as kids went. But this was my time to be alone with no cares or worries. My wings were pushed forward by the momentum of the swing as I pushed back. A strand of my pink tendrils hit me in the face as I swung forward. The feeling of freedom, as sweet as plum pie on a warm summer day. I turned my face to the sun, the wind sweeping the strand of hair behind me. I lived for the feeling of the sun on my face, peaceful and free. That was how life was meant to be. Perfection. Astor, I heard him call again, as if I had not heard him the first time. He was close enough. I knew he knew I had heard him and was choosing to ignore his call. I searched the landscape for him. I could barely make out his form in the midday sun. His skin refracted the light of his tiny scales, creating a mosaic of colors flying just above the blades of silver grass. The tall, slender sliver wisps of hollyhock stood out against the deep greens of the tall evergreens that hid his small form as he weaved through them. What does he want? I asked aloud. I had only wanted for the afternoon to myself. Was that too much to ask? I reluctantly jumped from my makeshift swing attached to the undercarriage of the overgrown mushroom that had become my own personal playground. I took flight in no hurry to find out what it was he wanted. Landing lightly on the ground and sauntering slowly through the yellow-flowered lady's mantle surrounded by the orange and yellow flowers. The purple palace of bells and the blue blossoms offered me shade. The sweet scent of the budding begonias filled the air, and my lungs delicious, I thought, and I deeply inhaled, savoring the scent. I ran my hands over each blade of grass as I passed, prickly and sticky, yet my touch remained soft and subtle as they glided over each blade. I pulled each one down for it to flick back up as I released it, only to grab the next. In no hurry, I gave up my peace and to give up my peace and freedom, my time for fun and play away from all that our parents had demanded of us, especially me, since I was older, nearly an adult. And he landed next to me with a thump. Aster, come quick. He struggled to get out each word, leaning over with his hand on his side, trying to catch his breath. I knew it must be something urgent. Billy J was never one to assert himself. My heart began to thud in my chest with the sudden worry that washed over me. Mother's gone into labor, he somehow managed to spit out. An excitement took the place of worry as I took 2 swift steps and leapt into flight. I searched the sky for any breeze to carry me. It had been a clear and still day, forcing me to flutter my wings as fast as I could manage. My weight pulled me down with each passing moment. Neither Billy J or I could make it home without landing, forcing us to run the remainder of the way. We entered the fortress of rocks through the wooden door that had flowers and vines meticulously carved into it. Mother was on the bed. Her pink hair had darkened to red and stuck to her face with sweat. My father knelt between her legs, and she let out a blood-curdling scream that stopped me in my tracks, and all I could see was the bed was wet and stained with the blood that poured from her. I had been told that childbirth was beautiful and full of magic. Why would anyone say such a thing? This was a horrific sight that filled me with fear. She was opened wide, and a tiny blue head emerged, covered in slime and mucus. I wanted to look away, close my eyes at least, but I could not. I stared in shock. My father somehow managed to reach her. See, I have words in here that I can't use because of the TOS, so I'm trying to skip over them. Sorry. Okay, so her skin tore as she opened wider. My father ripped the ball of blood and slime from her. My stomach turned and the room began to spin. I found myself fighting the taste of bile resting in the back of my throat, threatening me. My father took his knife, fashioned of wood, with a sharpened blade made of bone, of the fox, and sliced the gray twisted cord. He rushed the baby to the basin, and my mother motioned for me to go to her. I stood still in shock, screaming to myself to snap out of it. It took me a moment to realize that she was speaking to me, calling for me, and I forced myself to put one foot in front of the other. Heel-toe, I told myself as I began to move. The 4 steps it took to reach her side seemed to take an eternity. It's not over, she whispered breathlessly. I need you to pull the cord gently when I say, she instructed. Say what? I thought. Thudding pounded repeatedly in my ears. I was sure I could not hear anything more than the beating of my own heart. And she had said she needed me to pull that thing out of her? I could not process what she wanted. I was sure I did not hear what she had said correctly. I shook my face from side to side, as if that would clarify things for me. Hurry, she said, another contraction's coming. And her belly began to stiffen, and the contraction was visible and only served to frighten me more. So I rushed to the spot between her legs where my father had just stood and closed my eyes. I grabbed the twisty tentacle coming from her. I must have been dreaming. This had to be a nightmare. Now, she screamed, and I pulled as she pushed, and a giant glob of blood and goo flopped from her body onto the bed, and I gagged on the closing of my own throat. Sweat dripped from my forehead into my eyes. The taste of sweat on my lips served as a salty reminder that this was no dream. It's the placenta, she explained. Give it to me. She reached with outstretched arms toward me, towards the blob. I hesitantly reached onto the bed and attempted to pick it up. It wiggled in my hand, forcing me to use the other to keep from dropping the bloody thing. She took it from me. I bit into it. Yep, that was it. A gag hit and nothing could keep me from running to the window. I barely made it before I lost my lunch. Jesus, that scared me. My goodness, kitties. Okay, sorry. Where were we? Oh yeah, she lost her lunch. This was not beautiful. This was anything but magical, I thought. I blinked repeatedly, trying to erase the images of what had just transpired in front of my eyes. I could not blink it away. I looked down to my crimson-stained hands. I wanted to wipe the images from my mind, and instead I tried in vain to wipe the blood from my hands onto my bare legs. I felt my father's hand on my back. It startled me back into the moment. I turned to him, wide-eyed. I'd like to introduce you to your new brother, he said. This is Rain. He handed me the baby. Rain had chubby little cheeks. His wings and the tips of his pointed ears were golden yellow, and eyes the brightest green I had ever seen. And I took him into my arms, and his chubby little legs kicked me. He was tiny. My heart pounding in my chest and thundering in my ears, and I feared that I would hurt him. What if I dropped him? I cried to myself. But his skin was so soft, and his sweet scent threatened to dwarf the stench of his birth, the gruesomeness of which had dissipated, and all I could see was him. At that moment, all I wanted to do was to protect him. I fully understood. I felt the magic. And with every essence of my being, I felt a depth of love I had never known existed, and it was indeed beautiful. I took Rain to meet Mother. She still covered in sweat and blood, and I handed it to her and said, "Look what you did," with the most pride I had ever felt. She took Rain to her breast, and he began to suckle with his little fingers, fluttered in the crook of her arms. The sight brought a smile to my face. I was transfixed with my gaze upon them, noticing my mother, who was a fright to behold. I could not let her remain in this beautiful moment in such a state. So I filled a bowl with water from the room's basin, and with a clean cloth I wiped her face and brushed her hair back. The legacy of the Fae was passed to a new generation that day. Rain would become a legacy to all the Fae. I just didn't know it yet. So thank you so much for joining me today. I will definitely try to read better, and I won't go into as much next time, but definitely join me next Friday for Fantasy Fiction Friday. We will continue on with Rain's Reign, Daisy's Tale, Story 2 of the Ladies of the Lily, Dystopian Tales of the Fae. Remember, you are valid, you are worthy, and you are loved. Okay, bye!